25 years. We don't have record of it being observed. All right. Manasseh. Manasseh was a bad egg. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. His name means one who forgets, and he was well named. He forgot everything about his dad, forgot everything about the reforms of his dad, and forgot everything about God. And so he reigned longer, though, than any other king. He was wicked, but he reigned longer than any other king. He reigned 55 years. Isn't that an interesting thing? Here's this awful king, and God lets him stay on the throne for 55 years. Are you going to ask God about that when you get to heaven? I'm going to say, why did you let that guy reign for so long? His life falls into two parts. His wicked reign in life, and then he was taken captive. And quite late in life, he repented, but it was too late for him to really make a difference. He was followed by Ammon, and Ammon is the only king that bears the name of an Egyptian deity, Ammon. He was wicked. He reigned 2 years, and there's not a lot said about him in the Bible. He multiplied the wickedness of his father. He was Jewish, but he had the name of an Egyptian deity. He was followed. Josiah is his son, and he follows him. And we go back to having a great king. In fact, Josiah was one of the best kings that you could find. Just a tremendous king. And his name means Yahweh heals. And he began reigning at the age of 8. Now, I want to know if I have any 8-year-olds here tonight. Do I have any 9-year-olds? 10. All right, Gabby. All right, we have 2. All right. All right. How many of you want to put one of those 2 girls in charge of an entire country at the age of 10? Woo! 8 years old. Wow. So, you know what is the most remarkable about this guy is not that he's 8 years old, but that at 8 years old, he's more godly than his dad ever was. And he comes in to make serious, serious reforms to bring the nation of Judah back to God. Could be, I don't remember his uncle. That's a good question. How did he get so godly? I'm sure there were plenty of godly people around, but you know what? God got a hold of that guy's heart. And it just makes, it's just so interesting to me because that same thing kind of happens in families today. And you can have the most godly parents and they're walking with the Lord and they can produce a child that doesn't walk with God at all. And then you see every once in a while somebody come into the church and their parents never went to church and lived pagan lives and you wonder, how does this happen? How does this happen? I had a guy in my office this week and he was saved out of a home. Neither one of his parents ever went to church. And but there he was. And God just gets a hold of people, and it's just amazing what happens with them, isn't it? Okay, and he was a good king. He reigned 38 years. He destroyed much of the idol worship in Judah. He made one really poor decision. One very poor decision. And it had to do with the political arena of the time. You remember that first you had Assyria, okay? Assyria gets replaced by what major world kingdom? Babylon. Okay. Babylon will get destroyed by what major? The Medes and the Persians. Okay. That'll be destroyed by Greece. And Greece will be destroyed by Rome. Okay. So we're back up to Assyria, the first one we're talking about. So Assyria is on its way out at this time. And Babylon is on its way up. And so Pharaoh Necho, everybody say Pharaoh Necho. Isn't that just a wonderful thing to say? Pharaoh Necho. Pharaoh Necho, what country would Pharaoh Necho be from? Egypt, okay. And he's thinking, I'm going to go to battle against the king of Babylon. Because I don't think it's good for him to, it looks like he's going to take over the world and replace Assyria. And so he decided he's going to oppose that. And so Josiah, okay, where's Egypt? Way down south, okay? And so Pharaoh Necho is going to go way up north. And he's going to fight against the king of Babylon. In between is Judah. So he's bringing his army. Pharaoh Necho is coming with his army. And Josiah gets word of it. And he takes his army out. And he decides, I'm going to stop the king of Egypt, Pharaoh Necho, from going up and attacking. And Pharaoh Necho says, Josiah, go back home. This is not your fight. Go back home. It's none of your business. The Lord wants me to attack him. So you go back home. And Josiah won't do it. And so he decided, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to stop you from going to battle against the king of Babylon. And so he was killed in the battle, wounded severely, and he dies later. And here's this wonderful, great, and still young king, and he makes this horrible decision. And the Pharaoh says, the Lord told me to do this. So get out of my way. And Josiah won't listen to him. And so he gets killed. Great, godly king, and he makes this one huge mistake and loses his life. He is the last good king. Plus, not only does he lose that battle, but undoubtedly he lost some soldiers in the deal, and he is ticked off. And it's not good enough for him. It's not good enough for him that Josiah is dead. He decides, you know what? I'm coming to Judah. And so he does. All right. Now here's what happens. Jehoahaz is a son of good King Josiah, and he naturally takes the throne. Okay, and he's on the throne in 609. You'll notice he's on the throne not 609-2, but just 609, because the Pharaoh comes up and says, and he takes him captive to Egypt and appoints Jehoiakim to be the king. And so the Pharaoh made Jehoiakim, who was another son of Josiah, king in the place of Jehoahaz. And then Jehoiachin is the next king. Jehoiakim and Jehoiachin. All right, so Jehoiachin, by the way, Babylon does gain in great power, and they do come down, and they do conquer Egypt, and they in the process also conquer Judah. And Nebuchadnezzar puts Jehoiachin on the throne. He is also called Jeconiah. But he was a wicked king, and he reigned only 100 days. And Nebuchadnezzar said, I think you're not a very good king at all. I'm taking you to Babylon. So he takes him to Babylon. And then the final king of the era is Zedekiah. He's a son of Josiah, and he did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He's got one brother deported to Egypt, another brother was executed. His nephew was taken captive to Babylon. At first he was loyal to Nebuchadnezzar, but Pharaoh Hophra, now we have a new Pharaoh down there, Pharaoh Hophra, persuaded him, Zedekiah. He says, you know what? We don't need to have the king of Babylon ruling over us. You and I can join forces, and we'll oppose Babylon, and we'll show them. And dumb Zedekiah says, yeah, sounds like a good idea to me. Well, that would be the worst decision of his reign. And so he decides, yeah, I'm going to go, and Egypt and I, we're gonna whoop Babylon. Right. So Nebuchadnezzar gets word of what's going on, and he comes and he besieges the city. What does the word besiege mean? You besieges. Okay, you surround it, and what happens? Do you let anybody in and out? No. And no food goes in or out. So besiege is a terrible word. So here's what happens. He besieges the city in 597, 587, and 586. He breaks through. He destroys the city. He levels the temple and carries more people off to Babylon. This would be the third deportation. Now I'd like you to look at, there's a chart of deportations somewhere around. I think it's the last page. There's a I don't have it on the chart here, but I want you to look at that chart. It looks like this. Looks like this one. So clear on the back. Okay? Clear on the back. It's page 86. Thank you. Page 86. Okay. Now, this will show you that sequence. You see Josiah right there? Okay. And he was a great king. Everybody find Josiah on that chart? Okay. He's a great king. And then he makes that one dumb mistake in 609. And then his son, Jehoahaz, goes to the throne, but that didn't last very long. And you notice I shortened up Jehoahaz. His box isn't as long as Josiah's. And the reason is the king of Egypt has now sort of made Judah a vassal country to them. And so they've lost some of their independence. So I made the box shorter. And so Jehoahaz doesn't last very long. And then the Pharaoh comes and puts Jehoiakim in his place. And you also have during that time the king of Babylon coming against Judah, and you have the first deportation in 606 or 605, depending on whose numbers you're going by. And so the first deportation to Babylon is in 606. And at that deportation, Daniel and his friends are taken. They're taken where? Babylon. How far away is Babylon? You remember that when we did the Old Testament survey? Long ways away, isn't it? Okay, hundreds of miles.